So guys, as you know, I've reviewed a couple Pixar games. One was great and very underrated. The other was just okay. But today I'm going to talk about a game I have stronger feelings on. A game that instead of giving me great flavor and fantastic presentation, it gave a sour taste in my mouth and had a very bland presentation. And what is that game? Ratatouille. This game is really odd. I already didn't have high expectations for it. I mean, does a game where you play as a rat sound appealing? But when I finally played it had some genuinely enjoyable aspects. One were the mini-games, where you have to control Linguini to cook special orders. Those were a lot of fun and genuinely the best part of the game. Some of the levels actually presented a good challenge and were incredibly creative, and the best and my favorite part of the game, the boss chase levels. These levels are enthralling, exciting, hard enough, and the defeat of the villains is so satisfying and funny. But unfortunately this game has a lot more negatives than positives, starting off with the graphics. This game was developed by Asobo Studio WHO with LATB developers of WALL-E the Game Up the Game and Toy Story 3 for PS2. And honestly guys, I don't think Asobo was the right choice for this game. The movie is one of the most vibrant, colorful movies in Pixar's library, and I was really hoping they could translate that same look and energy into the game, and they didn't. The backgrounds and characters just look so stiff and lifeless, and the colors are muted as well as it being so fucking blurry. Even though Heavy Iron Studios and Rainbow Studios graphics weren't the best, at least they translated the look and feel of the movies the games were based on, and they were able to make the colors pop. But this one, the colors are so downgraded that it feels like there's very little life in this game and every character is just a soulless robot. And that problem isn't just prominent here, it's also very strong in the WALL-E game, which we'll get to eventually. But the graphics in this game do not execute that same charisma or pop the movie hit, and that is a huge problem. The controls can be very clunky, especially with the scurrying, which has a very painful sound effect to it. There are times where I was trying to do a movie, it wouldn't let me do it. This happens a lot with the PS2 and even PS3, but this happened too often in this game to where it killed the experience for me. Now, unlike the last two games, Remy can do a lot. He can tailspin, swing from poles, sniff things out, throw things, leap and land, double jump, climb nets, and many other moves. So every single button on your controller will be used for this game instead of one or two. And speaking of playing Remy, unlike Incredibles or Cars, the only other character you get to play as is Linguini. WHO you can only play as in the cooking segments of the game. Other than that, you're playing Remy. The levels themselves, just like Cars, are pretty much the same. You'll mostly help Remy's family steal food for their colony, which deviates entirely from the structure of the movie and doesn't make sense since that didn't happen until after the second act. Some of these levels have enjoyable aspects and can be very challenging, but most of the time it's just the same old boring level of you stealing food and getting it back to the colony. The pipe sliding levels are a mixed bag. On one hand, they can be very fun and enthralling to slide fast through a pipe. On the other hand, there are times where it's hard to see where the pie has broken because of the extreme blur of the graphics that I die at least 5 times before jumping over it, and that gets very, very annoying, especially when the gaps get bigger. Same could be said for the dream sequences. I like the creativity with some of these obstacles, and it does make my mouth water every time I play, but they're not very memorable. It's just a platform Juniper minigame with a few changes here and there. I appreciate the fact they get harder as you progressive and can get really creative with the obstacles, but as a whole they're just okay. The soundtrack for this game is really good. Jude, like The Incredibles, you could easily associate this music with a movie. It's that good. So overall guys, the Ratatouille game is a mixed bag, but unlike Cars, which had a lot of good aspects to counteract the bad aspects, this one, the negative aspects unfortunately outweigh the positive aspects. The presentation is bland and colors are muted to the extreme as well as blurry. The levels are uninspired and all have the exact same formula, and the controls are all over the place. Honestly guys, this is a game that you don't have to play in your lifetime, because it doesn't offer anything that you haven't seen before, and it's a very boring time. But if you do try this game and have a good time with it, I'm happy for you, and there are a few THNGs that you will get enjoyment out of. But other than that, this is just another throwaway tie-in game from the 2000 single quotes, and I certainly won't be playing this anytime soon. Is it the worst out of the Pixar games? No, not by a long shot. The next couple Pixar games are much worse. Stay tuned.